Okay, welcome back. By now all of you have logged in and looked into your Moodle account to be able to see the course structure and everything that we will cover this semester and how we will go about covering it. Again, like I said, this is my first time videotaping a course, so please bear with me as I get through this. I realize I've turned the screen off on the back, and we'll make some adjustments as we go forward too. But by now you've seen the PowerPoint presentations, the assignments, the in-class and out-of-class assignments, and also the group project that I want you to work on. And each week as they come up, I will tape a little small video of what I want you to do for each one of them so that you'll be comfortable with that. But if you do have any questions at any time, please email me at the email address listed on our syllabus. I'll try to check both email places, and I'll try to continuously check the Moodle account. But like I said in the welcome, if you send an email to my other email address, it comes directly to me on my cell phone, and I'm not always checking Moodle, but I will try to the best that I can, as most as I can as well. So let's get started. Let's talk about Chapter 1. The best way to do this is to print out the PowerPoints if you can, 6 per slide, so you can follow along and make notes. But everything that I talk about you will also find in your chapter. So we're covering Chapter 1 today and talking about it. And I always like to talk about the learning objectives at the beginning and the end, so we know that what we've covered is what we both want us to cover, and also so you'll know what is going to be on your test. By the end of this chapter, I want you to know the general allocation of economics and how it works in your everyday life. A lot of the things that we will talk about will be pretty simple and that you will already know, but I want you to hear some of these words that we'll talk about. For example, scarce resources. When we talk about scarce resources in economics, that's the main reason that drives the GDP. It drives supply and demand. Scarce resources are really what economics is about, and trying to figure out those scarce resources, the price point for the resources that we talked about, and where equilibrium fits in, and how you can make a profit versus a loss. So, but to talk about scarce resources, one of the great examples that most economists give is when you talk about water. For example, water is free. We have to have water to grow food. We have to have water to do the essential life functions. We have to have water to be able to live. But for the most part, it is free, although it is one of the most essential parts of human life. On the other hand, diamonds, which we love, but you don't have to have. It doesn't do anything for you physically, or that you have to grow other resources that you need. But diamonds are a lot more expensive than water. So if you look at, there's an abundance of water, or generally it's usually relatively easy to get, and the price is very low. Diamonds, who we really don't need, the price is really high because they're scarce and they're hard to find. That leads us into trade-offs. We will find out that humans make trade-offs for what we feel is important to us. Different people have different value points when they make those decisions, and we'll talk about that too. How to use marginal reasoning when making the decisions. Remember we talked about the profits that are made in the margins, how incentives affect people, why trade is a good thing, why trade with other nations is a great thing. We'll talk about markets, some good, some bad, the government's involvement in markets. We'll talk about the government involvement in economics and how they can stimulate or stun growth by regulations and other things too. So we'll go into that a little bit deeper. But anyway, so let's get on to to your first slide. Talks about the principles, the 10 principles in economics. The first one is that people face trade-offs. We talk about that there's no such thing as a free lunch. What that means is that generally when someone gives you their resource, they want a resource in return. And I'm not talking about church tithing or anything like that. I'm talking about in general day-to-day life and in the markets. So generally when you buy something, you're also having a reaction in the other market that either produced it or sold it, or someone makes profit off of it for being sold. So the number one thing is people face trade-offs. You have to make a decision of what you want to do. An important trade-off in society is that the difference between efficiency and equality. That's something that you need to look up, make sure that you understand the difference between efficiency and equality. Our next slide, principle 2, the cost is what you're willing to give up to get it. And I think we talked a little bit about that in the introduction as well. People will charge you what they think you're willing to pay for it. So that's something for you to think about. When you're making a decision that requires an individual to weigh the benefits and the cost, it's got to have some type of reaction. For example, going to college. You could say that going to college better prepares you in life. It helps you get that job that you want to get when you grow older. Some will say getting out of high school and going straight into the workforce, that you have 4 years of experience that the other person doesn't have, that while they're wasting their time spending money in college, you're out spending 4 years or sometimes longer making money. I believe there's a benefit in both. I'm not saying, of course, I don't believe anyone should not go to college, but I believe that there is a benefit in both. So you do have to look at opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is what we have to give up to get what we want to receive. Opportunity cost. That's a big thing that we'll talk about moving forward. Principle number 3, rational people think at the margins. We mentioned earlier in the previous lecture that the profits are made in the margins. Economists generally assume that people are rational. When you work through formulas or you make assumptions that people are rational. Irrational would be the pet rock industry in the 80s, when everybody went out and bought pet rocks. It was a $1 million, billion-dollar business. It made no sense for people to buy pet rocks, but a lot of people did. So that probably would not have worked well in an economic formula. So principle number 3, rational people think at the margins. Consumers want to purchase goods and services that will allow them the greatest level of satisfaction given their income and the prices that they face. So they want to get the most benefit out of what they spend. Firm managers want to produce the level of output that maximize the profits and the firms can earn. So you've got the group that wants to get the most out of it, and then you have the other group who wants to make the most profit and resolve out of it. So that's where your supply and demand starts coming in. Many decisions in life involve incremental decisions. Should I remain in school for this semester? Should I take another semester off? Should I work and go to school at the same time? A lot of incremental decisions make up